So friends, Republican members of Congress are abusing their power, weaponizing congressional committees to interfere in New York District Attorney Alvin Bragg's criminal investigation of Donald Trump, and that may very well constitute obstruction of justice. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, we just learned that Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy instructed all House congressional committees to do everything they can to put a stop to the criminal investigation being conducted by New York District Attorney Alvin Bragg into their political deity, Donald Trump. Friends, this will just knock the justice wind right out of you. This is a gross abuse of power, of position, of authority. It also arguably is unconstitutional. Remember that little 10th Amendment, right? That divvies up the rights of the federal government versus the rights of the states. Remember how the Republicans are all about states' rights until their political leader, their king, their savior, is about to be criminally indicted for, let's call it what it is, crimes he committed in New York in violation of New York state law, crimes for which his co-conspirator Michael Cohen pleaded guilty, was convicted, and imprisoned, served time. Crimes that Donald Trump committed when he was a private citizen in New York, albeit one running for president. And the fact that he's going to be indicted and prosecuted presently while he's a private citizen, all of that seems to be lost on Kevin McCarthy, who has directed all congressional committees to do what they can to put a stop to the investigation and prosecution of Donald Trump. Here is the new reporting about this breathtakingly improper, potentially unconstitutional, and likely criminal command by Kevin McCarthy, because it sure warrants opening an obstruction of justice investigation. This from Politico. House rushes to Trump's aid. House Republicans are gathered at a luxury resort not far from Disney World for their annual 3-day retreat, and where, we've learned, House Judiciary Committee Chair Jim Jordan and senior GOP leaders are preparing to demand testimony from members of the Manhattan District Attorney's Office amid reports of an imminent Trump indictment. And this from Reuters. U.S. House Republicans launch investigation of Manhattan DA in Trump probe. U.S. House of Representatives Republicans went on the offensive on Monday against a possible criminal indictment against Donald Trump, launching an investigation into the New York City prosecutor who is probing allegations that the former president paid hush money to a porn star ahead of the 2016 election. 3 Republican committee chairmen sent a letter to Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg seeking communications, documents, and testimony from him related to his investigation of the $130,000 payment by Trump's former lawyer to adult film actress Stormy Daniels to buy her silence over a 2006 sexual encounter she said she had with Trump. But friends, here's the thing. Congress has no lawful authority. Congress has no jurisdiction. Congress has no lawful basis to interfere in a state court prosecution of anybody. Don't take it from me. Take it from former federal prosecutor, who is now a member of Congress, Daniel Goldman. Democrats criticized the Republican action, saying a local prosecutor in Manhattan falls outside the jurisdiction of Congress. Quote, defending Trump is not a legitimate legislative purpose for Congress to investigate a state district attorney, Democratic Representative Daniel Goldman wrote on Twitter. Quote, Congress has no jurisdiction to investigate the Manhattan District Attorney, which receives no federal funding nor has any other federal nexus, added Goldman, who was the lead counsel in a 2019 House impeachment of Trump. And friends, just so we're clear what we're dealing with here, I'm going to read just a little bit of the letter that was sent to Alvin Bragg, signed by 3 Republican committee heads, Jim Jordan, James Comer, and Brian Steele, because it's breathtaking in its abuse of power, in its abuse of authority, in its violation of the 10th Amendment, separation of federal rights from state rights, and in its pretty transparent obstruction of justice. Here is just a little bit of that letter, signed by Jim Jordan, James Comer, and Brian Steele, to Alvin Bragg, dated March 20th, 2023. Dear Mr. Bragg, you are reportedly about to engage in an unprecedented abuse of prosecutorial authority, the indictment of a former president of the United States and current declared candidate for that office. Your actions will erode confidence in the even-handed application of justice and unalterably interfere in the course of the 2024 presidential election. In light of the serious consequences of your actions, we expect that you will testify about what plainly appears to be a politically motivated prosecutorial decision. Friends, this is brazen in its lawlessness. Because what this letter says is, District Attorney Bragg, what you're doing, enforcing the laws of New York, seeking to hold accountable, the other person who was involved in this illegal conspiracy to pay hush money to Stormy Daniels to hide from the American voters deeply damaging information that they had a right to know about Donald Trump and his candidacy back in 2016. Because you are trying to enforce the laws, you are potentially damaging Donald Trump's re-election prospects, and we will not stand for it. Friends, let me put this bluntly. This letter serves as adequate predication, that's a fancy term for enough evidence to open a criminal probe of Kevin McCarthy and Jim Jordan and James Comer and anybody else who is involved in this attempt to interfere in a state court prosecution pursuing violations of state law. But this is what happens when you give people like Kevin McCarthy, Jim Jordan, and others an inch. They will take mile after mile after mile. This is part of the problem when you allow insurrectionists to serve in Congress. They will stop at nothing. The rule of law means nothing. An abuse of their power and their authority and their office means nothing. A violation of the Constitution means nothing to them. A violation of the law, obstructing justice, in their zeal to try to help their criminal political god, Donald Trump, means nothing. And that's why there needs to be accountability for these crimes, these ongoing crimes, these numerous crimes, these chronic crimes committed by the ruling class criminals like McCarthy and Jordan and others. Because without accountability for those crimes, we will lose it all. We will lose our republic. Do you think they're going to stop here, abusing their power and authority to stop Alvin Bragg from prosecuting Donald Trump? Won't they move down to Georgia next? Haven't they already weaponized congressional committees to obstruct the federal investigations of Donald Trump? Until they're held accountable for all this, it will never stop. It will never stop. How about we try accountability for a change? Because justice matters. Friends, hang in there. Please stay safe. Please stay tuned. And I look forward to talking with you all again soon.